Thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Whether you're listening during your commute, while working out, or just relaxing at home, we appreciate you. Every download, every listen, and every subscription means a lot. Up next, the 12 Kyle podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading, and thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. Man, check this out. On this episode, we're going to do something a little different. This episode, I'm actually going to be interviewed or interviewing, depending on who asks the questions, with four very important people. These people are very close to me. I like to call them, the heart has four chambers. They are truly the four chambers of my heart. Today's episode will be with my children. It will be my oldest son, Dion, who's age 25 at the time of this recording, our middle son, Cameron, who's 22 at the time of this recording, and Brandon, who is 18 at the time of this recording, and our daughter, Skylar, who is 13 at the time of this recording. So the fellas have been on here before, but this is Skylar's first time on the podcast. Sky, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
What's up, fellas?
Father. What up, Pops?
What up, though?
All right. You don't have to put yourself on mute when you're not talking. You can leave it off mute. It's fine. So yeah, you guys, Cameron actually came up with this idea. At the time that we're actually recording this episode, it is actually Father's Day. We have just wrapped up a very spectacular Father's Day. All of the kids were here, with the exception of Dion, who's away. But we had a great Father's Day. I had a great Father's Day. They made breakfast, which was incredible.
What was on the menu?
Yeah, it was on the menu.
What was on the menu?
Oh, what was on the menu? Okay. Well, we had eggs, fried chicken, not waffles, but pancakes, chicken and pancakes. So that was great. And then and fruit. And then we went to church. We went to the 11:15 service at our church. Great service today. Shout out to Pastor Lee, who delivered a great sermon today. And then when we left there, we went immediately to the movie theater where we saw the movie Thunderbolts. It was my first time seeing it. I thought it was pretty good. I'm a big Marvel fan or whatever. And then we came home, got a little rest and relaxation, and then the children prepared dinner, and dinner was incredible. So it's been a great day, and we're winding down Father's Day 2025 by recording this episode. So when the idea was broached to me, Cameron, the 22-year-old, said, "Hey, Dad, we'd like to come on the podcast and ask some questions." So full disclosure, I don't know what they're going to ask. I mean, we have conversations all the time. So, but it's truly a blessing to have these four on here. So I'm interested to hear what they're going to ask me, and maybe I'll get a chance to ask them some questions as well. So Cameron, you're up first. What you got?
All right. So, first of all, I want to say I'm grateful for you, Dad, and everything that you do and continue to do in our lives, first and foremost, and that we appreciate you, even though we don't say it enough. So my first question is going to be, what was the most challenging moment in your life, and how did it shape who you are today?
Wow. The most challenging moment in my life was the gun in the house situation. I've talked about it on the podcast. I'll keep this story brief, but I had a gun. Well, my aunt left her gun out. My cousin Eric, shout out to my cousin Eric. We were playing with the gun, and I did not know that the gun was loaded. He told me that it wasn't. He had taken the clip out, but there was still one in the chamber. I didn't know anything about one being in the chamber, and I actually fired a loaded gun into the house. Fortunately, I didn't hit anybody, but that moment kind of shook me up. And I was in the 10th grade at the time. I was just about to complete the 10th grade. It was the last day of school. And that moment changed everything for me, because I realized, like, if I pointed it at Eric, or if I pointed it at myself, or just firing it in the house, I could have hit anybody. And so, it was an eye-opening experience for me, because like I didn't know. I don't think I took things as serious as I probably should have at that particular time. So yeah, that moment right there taught me to be a whole lot more serious about life and kind of get my stuff together, because at that particular time, I'm not saying I wasn't on a bad path or anything like that, but I wasn't. One of the things that I always tell all of you is to stay focused. And that's hard to do. It's hard enough to stay focused, but that was tough because I think up until that point, I really wasn't focused on much but other than playing football. So that's a great question. That's a great question. Anybody else? I know it's like church, nobody want to speak up, but anybody else got another question? I mean, you all don't have to speak at once.
I mean, are we not taking turns or have we?
I thought we were
Okay,
taking
well,
turns.
okay,
That's
well,
why I didn't say nothing.
okay, well, Brandon, I'll throw it to you, Brandon. You got a question for me?
You and mom met in college, so I guess my question would be: did you, at first sight, was it love at first sight, or were you just like going with the flow with her in college?
No, it wasn't even close to love at first sight. I thought she was cool, but no, I didn't have any idea that, she was going to be to be honest, I didn't even know she was going to be my girl, because at the time she had a boyfriend, I had a girlfriend, and, we met just really, my roommate, Kelly Craig, shout out to Kelly Craig, rest in peace. He was talking to her friend, and he just asked me to just come talk to your mom as to kind of just run some interference so she wouldn't be in the way.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't know. I had, if you would have told me that night that Kelly told me to come down and, run interference, I would have, if you'd have told me that, it would have led to us being in a relationship and marriage and kids and everything. I'd have told you it was crazy. But you just never know how. I guess the moral of our story is a story that I would tell everybody. Like, you just never know how which way life is going to take you. I mean, she had boyfriends, I had girlfriends, over a period of time throughout our lives. And it wasn't magical. I mean, we had to do the work. And I think that's something that obviously you guys don't see because you're here, but we had to do the work to get where we are. And it's a lot of work, and it's still continual work, even when we don't necessarily, some days we don't feel like working. Some days we get frustrated with each other. Obviously, some days we get frustrated with you guys, but it's still work, and we still continue to try to work together, not apart, to make it work. But no, I'll put it like this. She and I, particularly when we were dating, we used to take one of the things, which is kind of odd, and I know this is going to make you guys laugh. We used to get in the car and ride around a lot, and she wouldn't fall asleep, right? Y'all know now she gets in the car, she'll fall asleep in a minute. But we would get in the car and we'd ride, and we would just talk about, like what we wanted out of life and where we wanted to go, so forth and so on. And we talked about, particularly as our relationship moved further down the line and we got more serious with each other, we talked about wanting to have a family, so forth and so on. I never thought I'd have 4 kids, but I always knew I was going to have a son, and my first child was going to be a son. That was a must. So, but yeah, we never talked about how this life would look. But the one thing I can say, and I know I speak for her when I say this, as a parent, your life looks a certain way. And like before we had kids, your life looked a certain way. So I remember life, obviously I remember life before I had kids, but once you guys came, I mean, like the whole world flipped August 1999. So, but that was our story.
Appreciate it.
Skylar, what about you?
I guess, sorry, like since I'm like your first and only daughter, like was it different or like kind of like challenging raising me as opposed to Dion and Cameron and Brandon?
That's a great question. No, it's the same challenge, but the thing is the perspective is how you look at it and how you approach it is different. Like I realized very quickly that I could not, I had to be, because here's the thing, and you guys don't realize this, but we have to parent each of you differently because you're different personalities. I would never, like try to parent Dion like I parent Brandon, because now I'm going to give you love, I'm going to give you discipline, and my job is to give you an example to follow. Those 3 things. But I can't, Dion, and I'm just going to use him as an example. He may not respond to me yelling at the top of my lungs at him, and Brandon might. So Dion may respond to me just saying, "Hey man, I know you didn't clean up your room today, but do it tomorrow," and pat him on the back. And that might be the motivator for him to clean up his room. Brandon, I might have to yell at, "Hey man, didn't I tell you to clean up your room?" That type of thing. And so you have to realize which buttons to push with each child. And I learned very quickly. I remember one time you were maybe, I don't know, maybe 4. I said something to you and I was trying to get you to do it. And I said it in the tone in which I normally would say it with your brothers. And I remember when I said it, you looked at me and you just started crying. And I was like, I can't talk to her in that tone. Now, what I was saying, I still needed to get done, but I realized I couldn't come at you like that because you're not, and I don't even think it's so much as you being a girl, but it's just your personality. And I had to realize that I had to change my tone. So tone is everything. What you say is everything. So I could say, hey, Skylar, put the book on the shelf. That's one thing. I could say, Skylar, put the book on the shelf. Or I could say, Skylar, put that damn book on the shelf. Those are 3 different ways. You're going to respond to the first. Cameron, I might have to say, put that damn book on the shelf before I whip your tail. But that's Cameron. So everybody's a little bit different. It's almost like a coach. You realize every coach realizes that they can't coach everybody the same. Now, everybody's going to be treated fair. The thing that I try to make sure that I'm doing with you is that we talked about this the other day with the situation and scenario that we talked about when we had the family discussion. I don't ever want it to be a double standard. So whatever I think I mandated for your brothers, I want to make sure I mandate with you too. So let's say if curfew was 12 o'clock for your brothers, then when you get to that age that they had a 12 o'clock curfew, then it's going to be the same for you. It's not going to be 9 o'clock just because you're a girl. I don't believe in that. So to answer your question, I'm trying to make sure that I'm handling everybody with fairness and kindness, but everybody, you have to, as a parent, and you guys will find out many years from now, parenting is such a rewarding job. While you guys are our children, you're a gift from God. You're not technically ours. God has given you to us. So it's our job to kind of mold you and guide you in the right direction. Dion, you're up next.
I know you're a father, and this this question will apply to Skylar as well. What's the biggest lesson you've taken away from fatherhood, or in Skylar's case, parenthood?
Man, the biggest lesson is that I realized that you and you're not gonna get what I'm saying until that day, but like there's no other love. Each of you have a different love and adoration for your mom, my wife Sharice, and you have a different connection because she carried you for 9 months. But we all have a different relationship because I'm your father. And so in fatherhood, man, you just realize like there's absolutely nothing that I won't do for you. I tell people all the time, and maybe I don't tell you guys this a lot, but everything that I do it for you guys. I don't do everything that we do. There's nothing that I do for myself. I mean, do I benefit from some of the things? Yes. But from where we live to how you guys have grown up, where you've gone to school, where you've gone to college and graduated from college, it's for you guys. So I will, if it involves me going into debt so that you don't have to go into debt, I'll take that because I know that that'll push you along the line further along. There's nothing that I won't do for y'all. One of my jobs is to protect y'all. I'm not a killer, but I will kill somebody if it meant them trying to harm you. And I'll do the time. I don't want to go to jail, and I'm not just saying that trying to be tough, but I just want y'all to understand, like, when you become a parent, everything else goes out the window. I just remember, like, Dion, before you were born, I just remember 1999, I was like, I didn't know how I was going to feel. And I just remember when you were born, like everything stopped. The way that I saw the world was totally different. And, people were like, oh man, are you going to be able to afford, this child? And I'm like, yeah, because the thing is, the money that you spent on yourself, now I'm spending on you. And so it was a point where every time I go in the store, if I was going in the store to get me something, if I was going to get me one thing, you were getting 3 things. So if I was going shopping, let's say I was just going to get some sneakers. If I was going to get some sneakers, if I got 1 pair, you got 3. So it's a situation where it's kind of hard to put into words, but you'll understand when you become a father many, many years from now. I really sincerely want you and your brothers and your sister to get your degrees first and foremost and enjoy the world. And it's not to say that you can't enjoy the world when you become a parent, because I have enjoyed the world. But, I want you to have that time with your spouse and build together. And because your mom and I, while we didn't do it the quote unquote conventional way, we had those years together where it was just us. So by the time you came in 99 and then we got married in 2000, then we bought a house in 2001, the house that we live in, that's a lot. And to be honest, financially, that could break up a lot of marriages if you're not handling things right. But we had such a good rapport and such a great friendship and partnership that, any bumps and bruises, we got through it. But no, the thing that you'll see is when you become a dad, those kids come first. That's it. I mean, like, first and foremost. So anything that I do, I want you guys to do. Just like when we just took our trip 2 weeks ago to New York City. I could have gone by myself, but no, I had to go. You guys had to come with me because that's something I want you guys to experience. I want you to spend time with our family, get to know our family, and then also see the world, because the world is bigger than where we live. And we live in a major metropolitan city. So, but no, everything, when you become a parent, everything that you do is for the kids. At least that's what I think a good parent should do. Cameron?
My second question was going to be, is there anything you wish you'd done differently as a parent, and why?
I think there's always mistakes that you make. The thing that I've tried to do is not make big mistakes. I've made a bunch of little mistakes along the way. And fortunately, the little mistakes didn't turn into big things. I can't really think of anything that I would do differently. I think I probably would have been more, particularly when you guys were younger, I probably wouldn't have pushed. Because I know, I'll put it like this, and you guys talk about this all the time. I probably pushed you and Dion harder than I pushed Brandon and Skylar. But the reason being is that Brandon and Skylar had the benefit of watching you guys. And when it comes to academics, I know for a fact, I didn't really have to push Dion as hard, because Dion, all of you are very smart, first and foremost. But I didn't have to push Dion as hard. I think I had to probably push you harder, because you have a lot of traits that are very similar to me. And we always knew, like, from the time you were an infant, you were going to do things on your time. So I tried to get ahead of that. So I probably regret pushing you as hard as I did academically, and I stayed on you because I know that you could do it. And I tell you guys all the time, if we thought that you were good at, if you got C's and you were C students, if we thought that you were C students, we'd be satisfied with that. But you guys were never C students. And the only time that I could think of where I relented was when Dion had what was that chemistry with Westbrook? Yeah, I mean, was it chemistry or biology?
Chemistry. Biology was easy, but chemistry.
Yeah, chemistry. For those of you listening, Dion had a chemistry class, and his teacher, Mr. Westbrook, who was certified crazy. I mean, the man is like, Dion was telling us, like, he's like, Dad, you understand this guy's crazy. And it wasn't until we went to the parent teacher conference, I was like, oh, this guy's really like cuckoo. Like, I seriously questioned who in the district let this guy teach. But he was teaching these high school students things that chemistry students in college, like juniors in college, would be learning. And Dion was struggling, just like everybody was. I think at one point in time, Dion, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody in the class was failing the class, right?
Man, it was like like the highest grade was like an 85. I was like, oh.
Yeah. So, and when you told me that, I didn't want to tell you because I didn't ever want you to settle. But I just kind of said to myself, if he gets a C, I'm okay with it, because there was, and I am, as somebody who hated chemistry, there's nothing I could do. I mean, I couldn't help you. And so we reached out to your mom's line sister, and she was like, I hadn't seen this stuff since college. And so she told us that it was extremely hard. But yeah, to answer your question, Cameron, I probably would not have pushed as hard academically on you because I think you probably caught the brunt of it. But I think that it wasn't anything personal. Is because I think you were the one that needed to nudge a little bit more than your brothers and your sisters. What you got, Brandon?
My second question, not to exclude Skylar or anything. My second question is regarding the three of us, me, Dion, and Cameron. Watching us grow up rather, did you ever expect, us to just follow in your footsteps, like not every single step per se, but like most of the steps that you took growing up?
No, not at all. Because I realized quickly that you guys were, we're all different people. We have a lot of similarities. And to be honest, there's a lot of similarities in how I parent to what your grandmother and grandfather gave me or giving me, because they're still here and giving it to me. But no, I didn't expect anything. I think initially when Cameron was born, it was 3 years younger than Dion. So your Uncle Damon, my brother, he's 3 years younger than me. So I thought in some ways, probably the first year that Cameron was here, I thought maybe, man, it's going to be another Kyle and Damon all over again. And then as Cameron got older, from like 1 to 2, you realize like he was just totally different. Cameron literally and figuratively went everywhere Dion went. And it wasn't, and I'll be honest, and I tell people this all the time, and people who know our family think it's funny. We literally thought that Cameron was going to be the quiet child because he didn't really say much. And when he talked, he was all up on his big brother. And he was just so happy-go-lucky. It's funny because we send you guys pictures and stuff. We post pictures a lot in our family group chat. And you see him just smiling ear to ear. He's always happy. He was always under his big brother. Now, and that's not to say that's not who he is, because that's truly who he is. But what happens is, and you guys don't see it because you don't know, but when each of you, the 4 of you, when you got to middle school, everything changed. Brandon, things really kind of flip-flop for you because your middle school year, your 8th grade year was interrupted by COVID. So, but each of you, everything, your personalities kind of blossomed. Cameron really went from 0 to 60, when he got to middle school. He became the life of the party, happy-go-lucky, being goofy, doing all the silly stuff that he does around the house. That's who he became, I think, when he got to middle school. But to answer your question, no, I didn't think that you guys were going to be like me in that sense, because we grew up in 2 different lives. I mean, really, night and day. And a different era, too, because growing up in the 80s, the 70s and 80s in Florence, South Carolina, it's a different life. They're very different than growing up here in Atlanta. And, one of the things that we talked about, and I've expressed my concern, you guys don't see it, but as a parent, I'm always concerned about your safety. I know I can protect you in this house. I can't protect you once you go outside these doors, but I have to give you the tools so that you can understand and how to navigate and protect yourself. Particularly with Dion and Cameron, when they're out at night, I'm always concerned, hey, let me know when you're on your way home. Okay. Let me know when you get to your destination, whatever. I mean, because that's just a parent. We didn't have that type of stuff. And then, quite frankly, when I was growing up in Florence, if I went around a corner to Jason's house, that was it. Like, I wasn't going too far, but like Cameron could go to Spencer's house, and Spencer lives all the way on the other side of the city. And a lot can happen between, not that, I think something's bad going to happen. The later it gets at night, I want to know and make sure he's okay. And once he gets here and the garage door opens, then I'm cool. So, but no, I didn't think that you guys are going to be like me. There are some traits I think that are in me that you guys have. There are a lot of traits that your mom has that are in you guys, and naturally, that's the natural progression. But no, I didn't want y'all to be little Kyles. That wouldn't have been fair to you. I want you to be Brandon. I want Cameron to be Cameron. I want Dion to be Dion. Gotcha. Skylar?
So to pivot away from the parenthood talk, I wanted to know, like, out of all the sports that you played, like, growing up, how did you land on football in college?
Great question. Football in college came because I fell in love with football when I was 8 years old. I fell in love with football long before I loved hip hop, long before I loved girls, long before I loved anything. It was football. And football is truly my first love. And I still love football to this day, even though I'm not going to play football ever again in my life. But I started playing organized football at the age of 8. I asked Grandma if she would sign me up, and she said she would. And so she and Grandpa took me down to the city and signed me up for football. But the thing was interesting is that like you had to weigh a certain amount of weight. You had to weigh at least 60 pounds. And I think I weighed like 55 pounds. And so they had to sign a waiver saying that they wouldn't sue the city if I got hurt. And I played football that first year. And I mean, because I used to play in the neighborhood all the time. And I fell in love with the game. And so I eventually, played I played Little League all the way up until I couldn't play Little League football. I got to middle school. And then I got to high school. I played junior varsity for 1 year JV. And then varsity 11th and 12th grade. And then subsequently on to South Carolina State University, where I played for 4 years there. So it was a great journey. It was a great journey. I had a great career. I wasn't trying to make your brothers football players. I did introduce them to the game, but no, I knew that, that was my sport, and whatever they gravitated towards. I think they all could have played more sports if they wanted to, but I was never going to push them, because the last thing you want to do is push a kid to play something or do something that you want them to do and they ain't into it. That's the worst thing you can do. Dion, you're up next.
So you witnessed probably about 50 years of sports history, and you're a big sports guy. So I wanted to add, and you've been to a Super Bowl, you've been to NBA games, you've been to NFL games, you've been to baseball games. But as far as you can remember, and I need an unbiased answer, what is the greatest sports moment that you have witnessed yourself?
The greatest sports moment that I witnessed myself was definitely seeing my uncle, Harry Carson, and the New York Giants win Super Bowl 21 in Pasadena, California over the Denver Broncos. As many of you know, maybe you don't know, my uncle, Harry Carson, is a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He played 13 years for the New York Giants. He too played at South Carolina State University. Yeah, that was the greatest moment. Now, does that stack up with seeing Jordan hit the shot? No, it doesn't. Does it stack up with, seeing, I don't know, Syracuse win the national championship with Carmelo? It hits different when you're a fan of a team or what have you. But because obviously that's my family, that's my mom's brother, and we were there physically in Pasadena. That was the first time I'd ever been to LA. And I think the thing about that was, and I meant to ask your uncle this when we saw him a couple of weeks ago, I don't think they even feared losing. Like, they knew they were going to win that game. But that's the greatest sports moment. And the reason why, because the Giants were terrible for a long time. Like, even though the Giants are bad now, they were really bad, like, in some of those years. And my uncle was the only shining star until Lawrence Taylor came. And it was just him and Lawrence. And then Phil Simms stepped his game up. And then, the Giants were something to be reckoned with. But I remember years where they were terrible. And so I would keep in mind, I grew up in Florence, South Carolina. So I'm going to school with my Giants t-shirt on, a Giants jacket, and the Cowboys and the then Redskin fans. I mean, they'd be heckling me, the Eagles fans, they'd be heckling me and stuff like that. Oh, your uncle's trash. They this, whatever. So that moment was satisfying. It was gratifying just as a fan, because that was the time where I could go back to school. I could go to the neighborhood and just talk trash and say, hey, we're Super Bowl champions. And the Giants, reigned supreme that year. And, obviously the Gatorade bath, he was the godfather of the Gatorade dunk. And, so there was always a level of pride, but seeing that moment and being there present, I couldn't describe. It almost felt like we won the championship too, because I'll be honest, I don't know how much I know your uncle wanted to win. But I would say that as a family, I know we wanted it more than him. So if he wanted it 100, we wanted it 150 just for him, because we knew how bad things were in the years where the Giants sucked. And he was, it's tough when you're playing on a bad team and you're the star of a bad team. You're doing your thing. He's making Pro Bowls, he's getting all of these honors and stuff like that. But the Giants were terrible. I mean, like, Fortunately, wasn't social media back in the day, but there was no league pass or red zone or anything like that. So there were times where I didn't see the games. You just see maybe a 30-second highlight. But yeah, they were, and what was bad was like some of the times when the Giants were on TV, it was against the Cowboys or it was against the Redskins, and they just stunk. So that was gratifying. Was it the best win of the century? No, it wasn't. But just personally, that one resonated.
So,
Cameron, you got another question, or are you done?
Absolutely. I think we all have 3. So rounding out the last round is if you could gift one thing to the world that you haven't done yet, what would it be?
I think for me it would be the finances. But I would make sure that the finances, I would give money as a philanthropist. I would give money, and I would give the money to entities in our community. I would definitely give more. I mean, I've given money to South Carolina State University, but if I could write a $50 million check to South Carolina State University tomorrow, I would. No hesitation. And I wouldn't ask for anything in return. If I had, I don't know, Jeff Bezos' money, yeah, I'd cut a check right now. And not that money's the end all be all, but I think when you can pour into an institution like South Carolina State University, or if you can pour into an HBCU, or you can pour into our community, when you give resources and things of that nature, and you can fund certain things, you open up opportunities. And the thing is that I want kids that look like you, kids that you guys go to school with, to have opportunities, because you guys have benefited from having some opportunity that we didn't have because they just weren't there. And the thing that I always tell you guys is we want you guys to take advantage of every opportunity that you get, because opportunity is going to come, and it's not going to tell you that it's coming. You just got to be ready. And if you stay ready, you don't ever have to get ready. But you don't want to blow an opportunity. And I'll be honest, I've blown a bunch of opportunities. And as a father, I don't want you guys to make those same mistakes, because I think you guys are far ahead of where I was at your age. And the bar is set. I think you guys can take it and run with it. And then that'll make it even better for the next generation and your kids, which will be my grandkids. Brandon?
To round out my final question, it's more of a personal thing. Going back to the
Okay.
sports side of things. Dion playing baseball, Cameron playing football, Skylar doing cheer and tennis, me playing basketball my freshman year, and then for the rest of high school playing football. When the senior year, and I was out there making plays, I always meant to ask you that. I never did. I guess I got a chance now. Did you see a glimpse of yourself in me when I was on the field? I mean, I got the last name, I got the number, stats to prove for it as well. And I just always remember, after I would make a play or after I did something good, I was always looking for, not in my family, but I was always looking for you. I was always looking to see, if you, saw what it was. You saw the moment and the action. So I always ask myself, but I never got to ask you, did you see like glimpses of yourself in me when I was on the field?
Yes. I mean, to be honest, I see me in all of you. Not just in your athletic endeavors, but particularly when you guys play sports. When Cameron played football, when he played Little League football, he did some things on the field that reminded me of me. And he wasn't afraid. He wasn't afraid. I think that was the thing that really stood out to me. Like he wasn't afraid at all. And you on the football field, yeah, man. I mean, and I talked about this on one of the episodes. You surprised me when you went from wearing number 19 in your junior year to wearing number 12 in your senior year. It wasn't something that I'd asked you to do. It was just something that you chose to do on your own. So that right there, seeing you out there with the 12 on was crazy. And so, like, you were always, I'll be honest, when you were wearing 19, it was hard for me to find you on the field at times, particularly when you guys were on the sideline. But when you had that 12 on, you stood out. You know what I'm saying? But no, there were times where you would do things on the field, moves that you would make, a couple of catches you made. I was like, particularly, and I flashed back to the Stevenson game where you went crazy. And I told you after the game, I've never personally had a game like that. Well, you had like what 6 catches for like 200 yards or something like that, 2 touchdowns. I've never had a game like that in high school. I definitely didn't have a game like that in college. So, and when I told you that, I just remember the big smile coming over your face, even though you guys lost the game. And for those of you listening, Stevenson High School is is a rival of his high school, but it's one of the best pro football programs in the state. And Brandon torched them. But what made me feel better about even the loss was that I told you the week before to be prepared because you were going to get a lot of one-on-one coverage, and you took advantage of it. That game, I can't even say you reminded me of me because you look better than me. And your dad wasn't a bad receiver. I was pretty decent. So yeah. But to answer your question, yeah, I definitely saw a lot. It wasn't anything particular. Sometimes it'd be a move. Sometimes it'd be how you run your routes. Sometimes how you would jog. You look like me. And one game we were at, and your mom leaned over and she's like, Lord, he built just like you. And I was just like, really? So yeah, you definitely made me think about me on that football field. And true indeed for Dion as well. When Dion played baseball, the thing about Dion that reminded me of me was that Dion's hand-eye coordination was crazy. So I think had he kept playing, I mean, sky's the limit, man. I don't know. And we talked about a little regret. I think I probably would not have, if I could do it all over again, I probably wouldn't have pulled him out of baseball as quickly as we did. But it was a lot of stuff going on, and with the team and everything like that. And Dion was, kind of slacking off a little bit in school. But I think had he continued to play, he would have made the major leagues. I don't know, but he would have. He definitely would have played long into, I think, college, because his hand-eye coordination that's something you can't teach. You either got it or you don't when it comes to baseball, because that ball is going to move. So you got a split decision as to make whether or not it's going to be a fastball, curveball, or whatever you can do to hit that ball. And I think Dion was really, really good at it. And I'm not just saying that as a father. I'm saying that as someone who watches baseball and understands baseball. And, I probably, and your grandfather always says, he still says this to this day, he thinks that I was a better baseball player than I was football player. I just didn't give baseball a chance. So, I think regrets, I probably would, if I could go back, I probably wouldn't have pulled Dion out of baseball as fast. Skylar?
Okay, to wrap up, like my final question, it's just something I've always been kind of curious about because I've always heard like different things about it. But who do you think out of the four of us looks most like you?
Brandon looks the most, but you all look like me. People will see, and it's funny because I hear this all the time. Now, Skylar, you're really starting to look more and more like me as you've gotten older. And but I'm like, and I'm always curious because like when people say that, I'm like, well, have you seen her mom? Because she looks like her mom. Cameron looks more like your mom than probably anybody else does. But I think personally, I think you all look like me. Brandon, I pretty much spit him out. It's not even close. Dion looks like a really good mix between me and my brother, your Uncle Damon. But we all have a certain look. And I think it was going to be impossible for a woman as beautiful as your mother and a man as handsome as me to make ugly kids. So all four of you are handsome and beautiful. And more than that, you guys are intelligent. And I tell people all the time, your intelligence doesn't necessarily come from your dad. Now, I'm a very intelligent person, but I think your intelligence comes from your mom. All right, what you got, Dion?
I got a two-parter.
Okay.
One is a sports question. Who would you? I mean, this isn't the question; it's the lead up. But who is the best team that Jordan was on? Like, what year was the best team Jordan was on?
I'd probably say that 95, 96 team, the team that won 72 games. I'd probably say that was Jordan's best team.
Okay. So you put them, I'm talking about them right then and there versus the 2017-2018 Golden State Warriors in a 7-game series. Who's coming out on top and in how many games?
Okay, I got to ask you a question. What rules are we playing by? We playing by the 90s rules or the 2017 rules? Because that makes the difference.
We can play by the 2005 rules. I mean,
No, I mean give me an era because the game is played differently.
thousands. Neither of them eras.
Okay. So if you're playing by the 2000s rules, I think that 2017 Golden State team probably beats the Bulls in the 7-game series. But if you play by those rules and you're not hand checking, I mean Mike might average 50. They probably lose, but he'd probably average 50 because he averaged 35, 36, 37 in the playoffs and in the finals. And that was with hand checking and fouling and slamming and all kind of stuff they did in the 90s. So if you put him in the 2000s where the movement is free, but that Warrior team with Steph, Clay, KD, they were a cheat code. They were a cheat code. So that's probably by era, I think that's one of the best teams I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, thank you. And then the last question I have, out of each of us, what is one trait that you think will take us where we need to go?
I think
in life,
and I'll do it individually. I think for you, it's your compassion. The profession that you've chosen, compassion is everything. And I think you've always been one where people gravitate towards. You've always been like the kid that everybody likes. I think if I did a poll of people that you went to school with, both college and high school, I don't think that there were going to be a lot of people to say bad things about Dion. I just don't. And I'm not just saying that because I'm your dad. I just think like that's a trait that you have, your compassion in the field that you've chosen to study in, and you just recently graduated with your master's. I think it's gonna bode well for you because people like talking to you, and you always made yourself easy to talk to and vulnerable, and people will let their guards down. And we're kind of similar in some ways. I think like you're one of the people I think a stranger could walk up to and just start talking to them. They'll just come start talking to you. And they don't know you, and they'll start telling you their life story. And, I think that'll take you a long way. I think for Cameron, his ability to do everything well, I think that is one of the traits that just his versatility, if you will. His versatility, there's so many things that he can do well. It's just really about him honing in on his focus to do it. I think that right there that trait is going to take him a long way in life. Brandon's determination, and you all have determination, but Brandon's determination, I mean, it ain't easy being the younger brother, but he's also the big brother. So he knows that, while he's the younger brother for you two, he's the big brother for Skylar. So he has a path that he's trying to take, but his determination, he's always been determined, always, no matter what. And he was always going to get the party started. We all know he likes to have fun. Now, when he gets to college in the fall as a freshman, can't have too much fun, but you need to have a good time. You should have a good time. I'm sure you, Dion, and Cameron have both told Brandon about how much fun he should have. College is going to be fun. I want you to have as much fun as possible. That being said, you also have a lot of work to do. So don't let the fun override the work. But his determination is what I think one of the traits that is one of the things that's going to lead him to where he needs to be. I think Skylar, her caring heart. Skylar is she's such a pleasure to be around. And people, I could tell, like her friends and even people that don't know her, she carries a level of respect when she comes in the room. And I'll never forget this. And I don't mind. You guys may have heard the story. Maybe you didn't hear the story. But at one point in time, Skylar was at this elementary school called Wadsworth. I remember we went into school I think we were doing a tour or something. And I heard several kids say, "Oh, that's Skylar. There goes Skylar. There goes Skylar." I mean, like they were saying her name like she was a star. And I'm like, how do these people know? I was like, how do these people know my daughter? Skylar, she hadn't even been there yet. And so like, she's not going to fold under the expectations. I think Skylar has really benefited from obviously having 3 older brothers. Academically, I think she's further along than you guys. I don't think that's a stretch by saying that. But I think with what's to come for her in high school, and she does a lot between tennis, academics, her social events, being friends with all her friends, the Jack and Jill stuff. I mean, like, she does, like last year, she did a lot. Cheerleading. It was a lot. And I mean, like, she handles it and she don't complain. She just but she wants to be the best in her class. She wants to get A's. She has that thirst for knowledge. So I think all of that stuff will really push her forward as far as her traits are concerned. So yeah, those are some great questions. Though I wish I had time to answer. Maybe I need to bring y'all back and I ask y'all some questions because I got some questions for y'all.
You should.
Yeah, we should definitely probably do that. But as we wrap this up, I gotta say, this has been a great Father's Day. Every day is really Father's Day. I am really truly blessed to be your father. It is a job that I don't take lightly. It is the job that I cannot fail at. I can't fail. Even when I feel like I'm failing, I have to kind of draw something and push myself to be better. Again, because like I told you guys before, if it were up to me, if it was just me by myself, I might be living in a cardboard box somewhere because I don't need much. But like, I wanted to make sure that I have, because the thing is, me and Uncle Damon, the way that we grew up, your grandparents, even after they divorced, we had everything we needed and we had most of what we wanted. And I can definitely say that same for you guys. You guys have everything you want and everything you need. There's not much that you've asked for that you didn't get. I don't think I'm, Cameron, you looking funny. Everything you've asked for, you've got. So I'm not going to say y'all are spoiled, but y'all are blessed. But I will say, in closing, you guys are the best. I think I say it, but I probably don't say it enough. I'm extremely proud of all 4 of you. Each of you have started a journey and you stayed on this path, and I'm really proud of the young men and young women that you guys are becoming. All we want you to do is keep doing what you've been doing, staying focused, and you will become the productive citizens that we hope that you guys will be. It's not by magic. It's not by osmosis. I'm sure some days I get on your nerves, because trust me, some days y'all get on my nerves. But I always want the best for you, and I'm going to do any and everything I can until they throw dirt on me. And even then, I will still be doing whatever I can for you guys. I heard this recently and it made sense. It says a father's job is to prepare his children to live in a world without him. Now, while that is a crazy thought, at some point in time, hopefully many, many thousands of years from now, you'll live in this world without me. And that's part of the reason why I have this podcast, is because, as I mentioned in the previous episode, like, I always wanted to know how my grandfather felt about, Jim Crow, or how he felt about, the Yankees, or how he felt about what the world was going through. And I never got a chance to ask him. You guys are fortunate because you still have all of your grandparents here. Use them, cherish them, call them, text them, love on them while they're here. And they're walking encyclopedias. But also, I want you guys to continue to be who you are, because ultimately, you guys are a reflection of us. And so that's why we speak to you about what you're wearing when you walk outside the house, Mr. Crocs, Mr. Durag, but we want what's best for you. And like I said, my life changed, and I have to echo the sentiments of my dad when I say August 9th, 1999, August 8th, 2002, December 10th, 2006, and September 28th, 2011 were the greatest days of my life. And nothing's ever going to change that. And I love y'all. Always. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. So for the 12 Kyle posse, my kids, Dion, Cameron, Brandon, and Skylar, I will catch you guys next time. 5,000.
Peace. With 2 fingers.
Hear me.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the 12 Kyle podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and share this podcast with a friend who needs the 12 Kyle podcast in their life. Every listen, every download, and every share helps us grow. Thanks for being a part of the 12 Kyle podcast community. We appreciate your support. We will catch you next time. 5,000.